if you're feeling deep feelings of depression, or you are feeling like you're a danger to yourself or other people, especially if you are isolated during the winter or isolated period, number one, get help. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Homebody Chronicles. I hope y'all have been having a good day, good week, good month, whatever. I hope it's been good. This week is gonna be cold. It's gonna be chilly. So I thought we would start off this week by giving you guys a few tips on how to deal with this crazy weather. I know for a lot of people, staying inside and being at home and having to stay at home can be difficult. But again, as a certified homebody, I feel qualified to give you advice on how to stay home and stay home well. No, but in all seriousness, winter can be a very depressing time for a lot of people. And one of the reasons is the fact that there's a lot less going on in the social world. At least for me, I will say. Again, disclaimer, I very much enjoy being home, as you know, that goes without saying. However, I do know that a lot of people do experience seasonal depression, or just plain old FOMO. So I thought I would talk about that today and just give you guys some pointers on how to get through those feelings. Another disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I'm nowhere near the medical field, so this is not medical advice. While there will be some things about health and wellness and stuff of that nature, I'm not a doctor. So if you're feeling deep feelings of depression, or you are feeling like you're a danger to yourself or other people, especially if you are isolated during the winter or isolated period, number one, get help. This is not the place that you should be getting help. This is more so for the people who are more or less have a handle on their mental state. This is not medical advice. So, yeah, that's what I'll say. Extended space travel can change your DNA. This one, when I first read about it, I don't know, I'm very skeptical. But let's get into it. Not only can long-term space travel affect you physically and mentally, it could also disrupt your DNA. In 2016, astronaut Scott Kelly returned to Earth after a year-long stay on board the ISS, International Space Station. International Space Station. Upon returning, he noticed that he'd grown 2 inches taller than his identical twin, astronaut Mike Kelly. After taking medical exams, scientists were shocked to find out that not only did Scott now have different gut bacteria than Mike, but his DNA was also different from his twin brother. Scientists concluded that the stress from staying in space for too long had caused Scott's cells to essentially rewrite his genetic code. And while he did shrink back to his original height, the changes in his DNA were permanent, so technically Mike and Scott Kelly were no longer identical twins. That's actually crazy. To me, the craziest part of this whole thing is the fact that there are 2 brothers who are both astronauts. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, I guess if you want to rewrite your genetic code, go to space for a couple years. Yeah, I don't know. This one is a little hard for me to grasp. So today we're going to be talking about getting out of the winter blues. Like I mentioned, winter blues can be plain old, just feeling like you're in a rut. A lot of times it's caused from staying inside. It's caused from not seeing the sun, not being in the sun. But let me find a more formal definition of the winter blues to share with you all. The winter blues typically happen every now and then during the colder months. You may feel sad or want to stay home, but you're still able to function. For example, you decide to cancel social plans to stay home, but still take interest in your normal activities like watching TV or crafting. Okay, that's a very positive outlook of the winter blues. Winter blues can also be considered seasonal affective disorder, aka SAD. In this, it does talk about how people may not seek treatment, but SAD is a major depression with seasonal patterns, which is the official diagnosis. It's more serious than the winter blues. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, there are people who truly do struggle immensely with seasonal affective disorder. This video is not to make light of that either. This video, am I foreshadowing? Maybe. This podcast episode is not to make light of that, but it's just, let's say I'll be talking about the less severe end of the winter blues or seasonal affective disorder, if I can say that. So, one of the first things that I know for me in general that has become one of my joys of being home is practicing hygge. If you don't know what hygge is a Danish concept, I guess. And it's just, I don't want to say it's just, but it's basically, if I could sum it up, it's the practice of coziness. So the official definition that I found was, hygge is a cozy quality that makes a person feel content and comfortable. During the long, dark winters when Danes retreat inside their homes, hygge is what gives them a great sense of comfort and joy. So, not to be all fancy, and also not to essentially steal someone else's cultural custom, but the act of hygge or practicing hygge is staying inside, staying warm, and staying cozy, savoring the simple. And I think the thing about hygge, or just plain old staying cozy and warm inside, is that it's super simple, and it's one of those things where going back to your basics can really be the key to being able to get out of that rut or getting out of the winter blues. So yeah, and also it's important to know what cozy means to you, because everyone has different living situations. Some people live alone, some people live with family, some people live with spouses or partners. So for me, cozy means having great food, sometimes just hanging out with my family and friends with no schedule, no agenda, just vibes, essentially. Whether that's watching a movie or just chilling and talking, liming, if you will, liming in the Northern Hemisphere inside. If you don't know what liming is, I think it's a Caribbean term. I don't know if it's exclusive to Trinidad, but my background is Trinidadian. If you didn't know, my parents both born and raised in Trinidad. So yeah, I consider myself to be Trinidadian background, but liming is essentially just hanging out with nothing to do. All the Trinis in listening are probably like, girl, that is not what liming is, but I don't know what else to. Google says that liming is hanging around, usually a public space with friends, enjoying the scene. Okay, yeah, so enjoying the scene in a public space. Yeah, I do agree that true, authentic liming is done in public. It can be done on the corner of the street. It can be done at the park. It can be done down at the lake or at the sea if you're near the sea. But when you're trying to get out of the winter blues, the whole point is that you are doing what you can with what you have, and sometimes that means you can't go outside. And by the way the forecast is looking this week, we probably won't be able to go outside. So liming at home, if that's a thing, is something that I enjoy, and it'll help it might help you guys get out of the winter blues. Yeah, and there's a ton of resources on like Huga and practicing coziness. One of the main reasons that I started my candle business, Dusk Aroma Candle Co. Follow us on Instagram. We'll be starting that up sometime soon this year. Is because I wanted to find something to unwind with and just like have that like little piece of luxury at home. And lighting candles and keeping lights like low and cozy is just the perfect recipe for just vibes at home when it's cold outside and you can't / don't want to go outside. So yeah, that's the first tip I have. I'll put a few resources for everything I talk about in the description of each of this episode, so have a look at that. The next thing, so this is more so geared towards the mental health effects of the winter blues. I know, like I mentioned, a lot of times this season, a lot of people feel a little bit drained or a little bit sad or just overall, like in a rut. So one thing that I know helps me, whether I'm feeling this during like a winter blues season or even just in general, is to be very conscious of regulating my nervous system. So to regulate your nervous system basically means when we encounter a change in our environment, like a stressful situation, we can adapt so that we're not overwhelmed. So a person who regulates their nervous system well is able to adapt to a change in their environment or surroundings or circumstances effectively without being overly overwhelmed. So I know for a lot of people, going from like the winter or Christmas season with like lots of outings and food and just a lot of social gatherings, going from that to January with a lot more people returning back to work, back to school, back to their day-to-day life, it can be a little bit of a difficult adjustment. So one thing that a lot of people do to help regulate their nervous system is square or box breathing. Now, this might sound dramatic, but trust me, in stressful situations, making sure that you're breathing properly and well will help you so much. This, I think, kind of, it's more so something that you can consciously think of or do when you feel that like trigger or you feel that level of stress building up. But it's basically when you breathe in slowly for 4 seconds, you hold that breath in for 4 seconds, and then you release that slowly for 4 seconds. I believe, let me double check. Let me just fact check myself. Box breathing. But it's really helpful to kind of, okay. So you actually, you breathe in, you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, and then you hold for 4 seconds before you breathe in again. It just kind of forces your body to let in more oxygen, and letting in more oxygen helps your brain, helps you relieve stress. So that's one thing. Another way to regulate your nervous system is to just slow down in general. A lot of times, look at a person who's stressed out. They're just on a 10, like they're just going. The best way to regulate your nervous system in your day-to-day is to just slow down. When you wake up, give yourself enough time to have like a couple of minutes of quiet time. Eat slowly. When you're eating, try to chew slowly, try to chew as much as you can before you swallow your food. Like, just slow down. If you're walking, slow down. I know that can be hard, especially in a city, urban lifestyle environment. I know for me, if you are walking with me in transit and I'm commuting and I'm walking through Union Station, best believe I'm walking on lightning speed. So it's definitely something that I need to work on. But yeah, in general, just slow down. That can really help your body to not build up too much stress throughout your day. Another thing to help regulate your nervous system is routine. Simple routine. And I personally have seen this work in my life for as long as I can remember. And routine is essentially just doing the same thing over and over every single day. And one thing I've recently learned from my doctor was that your adrenal glands really love routine. Basically, especially with your eating habits. So if you eat at the same time every day, that can really help your adrenal glands. And don't quote me on this, I'm still learning, but your adrenal glands produce hormones that help regulate your metabolism, immune system, blood pressure, and response to stress and other essential functions. So your adrenal glands thrive when you have routine in your day and when you have routine in your eating habits. So yeah, square/box breathing, slowing down, and routine can all help regulate your nervous system. The next thing that can help you when you're in a season of winter blues is movement. Now, this one might be tricky because you're like, girl, I can't go outside. How am I moving? If you have the space where you live, you can move inside. There's tons of workout videos on YouTube, and I'm not saying that movement has to be sweating and dripping, lying on the floor, dying from whatever you did. No, moving your body is essential. Your body was made to move. It has joints, muscles, and if they're not in use, they deplete, and so does your mental health, because your body's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, and your brain is not getting what it's supposed to be getting. So movement definitely helps. I saw this 1000% in action during COVID. At the time, there's a part of COVID where I had stopped working. I was working from home for a little bit, and then I stopped working for a long periodically of time. And going for walks daily is what kept me sane for a lot in a lot of ways. Obviously, God, all glory to God. He kept me sane first and foremost, but he also created my body to move, and I wasn't moving it as much as I should have been. And when I started to, I could really see the difference in how my brain worked and how I felt a lot of clarity. And it felt good. And like I said, you can move inside. You can also go outside. I mean, as long as it's, I don't want to say warm enough, but not too cold. You can safely bundle up and get that walk in, whether it's 10,000 steps, if that's your goal. But movement in general, for me, going to the gym in the winter is like my favorite thing to do. One of the reasons being that it's easier. There's a lot less social obligations in the winter, so it's easier to stick with my routine. And number two, a lot of people just don't like working out in the winter for some reason, so the gym is usually a little bit empty. I know in a few episodes I talked about how like beginning of January, everyone's in the gym. I can honestly say that it hasn't been that full. So, I mean, that's good for me, but I would love for more of you guys to go to the gym as well. So maybe I won't rejoice too much about the fact that the gym isn't full. But yeah, move, get your body moving, get those lymph fluids flowing. I don't know anything about lymph. I just know that they say that you're supposed to move and it'll help you with lymph drainage. But yeah, get your body moving, get your heart working. Cardio is great. Cardiovascular, the two are connected. So get your heart working. Do what you need to do to keep that body and utilize your bodily function. That sounds crazy. Bodily functions, not the toilet ones. The regular everyday bodily functions of movement are meant to keep you healthy, both physically, mentally. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. The next thing that I'll talk about that has helped me with winter blues and any sort of rut in general, but especially the winter blues, is just gratitude. I think it's easy to get caught up in the negative that you're seeing in front of you or what you presume or perceive as negative. But for me, as soon as I stop and literally, as corny as it might sound, as cliche as it might sound, count my blessings, then I realize that I personally, again, saying this for myself, I have nothing to complain about. And if I have something to complain about, I have the resources and the means and the know-how to be able to change that and to seek God and to pray about it. So there really isn't ever a reason for me to actively stay negative, if you know what I mean. There's always a way out, is what I'm trying to say. And one thing that always sticks out to me when I think of gratitude, it's the verse in Philippians. It's Philippians 4:6, and it's, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God." So basically, whenever I think of gratitude in general or this scripture in general, whenever I feel like I'm in that rut or I'm stuck in like a season of blues, it's usually because I have been overlooking all the good things that I am blessed with. Again, this is not me trying to make light of people who truly suffer deeply with seasonal depression or any serious mental health illnesses, but at the end of the day, we're all human. Whether we have mental health issues or mental illnesses, there's always going to be seasons of us feeling down or feeling in a rut or whatever. And if you're one of those people, or if you're in one of those seasons, you really have to push through, and it's hard. I'm not going to say that it's something that you just have to do. Like, no, it's hard. But one thing that helps me is to just think about all the good things that God has blessed me with. He's blessed me with people that can give me advice. He's blessed me with people that I can also talk to. He's blessed me, again, like I said, with resources to fix a situation that I might be stuck in. He's blessed me with abilities and talents to occupy my time, so I'm not idle. He's blessed me with so much that I could sit here for hours and go on and on about it. But yeah, I think for me, getting out of any rut, whether it's a winter blues rut, practicing gratitude is definitely a key thing to help me get out of that headspace. Yeah, and then the last point is for all the Jesus peeps out there. Actually, it's for anyone, because at the end of the day, it's for anyone. But it's just to study and really bask and overwhelm yourself with biblical, godly peace. And what I mean by that is when you shower yourself in God's word, it becomes the only thing that fills your brain space. And I think a lot of people out there are talking about protecting your peace, protect your peace, protect your peace, which is true. You should protect your peace, but it's like you need to have the seed of peace in you first and foremost in order to protect it. And a lot of people are protecting things that they think are peace when really they're not. So I think one thing I would encourage you to do, again, whether you're in a winter blues or you're in a rut, is to practice and overwhelm, and I'm looking for another word that I can't find right now. Bask, and just fill your cup with peace. Peace, the word says that God, Jesus, is the Prince of Peace. So if you want to learn about peace, it's best to learn about peace from the Prince of Peace, right? So One scripture I will read for you is John 16:33. Let me open it. I thought I had it open, but I did not. John 16:33. Oh, there it is. And it says, "These things that I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." And now for context of this chapter, I will say Jesus basically goes through a whole slew of tribulations and trials and negative experiences that the devil, not the devil, the disciples will face, slash have already started to face. And then on top of that, he says, hey, y'all are going to be going through this when I'm not here, because I'm going to be going. But he's like, but I'll send my comforter, but you're still going to be going through these things. And then at the end, he says basically, these things have I spoken unto you, that in me you might have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. So basically, there's a bunch of bad happening / going to happen, and he's leaving them. But he's like, hey, with all that, be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. I'm saying this to you so that you will have peace, so that when these things come, you won't fall into these, you won't fall into the trap of, being trapped by the tribulation that you're facing. And reading this now, it's easy to read and be like, yeah, Jesus is my peace. But when I put myself in the position of the disciples, like, they partly had no idea what Jesus was talking about. I don't know what they were thinking. Oh yeah, Jesus is saying he'll go away. Eventually we'll grow apart. Like maybe like he'll have his own family and we'll move away. Like they could have been thinking anything. But at this point, I'm not 100% sure. At this point, I don't think they knew about Calvary. And even if they did, until they experienced it, they wouldn't have known the full effect that it would have had on Jesus, first of all, but also on them, and who would, deny Christ, and who would, slightly backslide and whatnot. But anyways, all that to say, no matter what's happening in your life, when you invite the Prince of Peace, you'll have a peace that passes all understanding. And that's just the law of it all. But yeah, that's basically this episode. Very short and sweet. Like I said, I will link more resources in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Stay tuned next week. And yeah, keep peace, stay warm, stay cozy. Let me know in the comments if you have any episode suggestions, or if you have guests in mind that you think would be fun to have on. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, rate us a 5, or else, yeah, you know the rest. If you're on Apple Music, also rate us a 5. And also leave comments on Spotify. A couple of you have been leaving comments, and the Spotify comments, they've been hitting. So leave some more comments. I try to answer them as soon as possible. But yeah, just if you're enjoying the podcast, of course, let me know. Tell your friends about it. Share it on your socials. Yeah, that's it. Have a great week. Bye.